Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's July 30th, 2021. Hard to believe, but it is. So, just wanted to welcome you all back. Actually, my partner is on vacation. We had a scheduling conflict today, and then he's taking a well-deserved week off. So we wish Steve and his family all the best on their vacation. And a lot of stuff to talk about. And to jump right in, being that I'm a solo here, I have the monologue this week. My monologue is going to be this whole Simone Biles situation, which is, right at the forefront of the Olympics, even with the COVID situation over there. And I feel for this kid. I like her. And you can actually tell that there was something not right. I mean, this kid never makes mistakes. And it just wasn't her time. And, she came right out with it and said that there's a problem. It's an emotional issue of some sort. And not proclaiming to be a doctor, but it must be very, very serious because this kid has been flawless for the past 8 to 10 years. And she came right out and said, "This is not working for me." And I think it's a good thing for a lot of reasons. I think she is just such a popular figure in sports that this brings everything to light for all of the situations of dealing with emotional and mental and anxiety issues and so forth. And she's going to be a great spokesman for this, and she had the courage to do it. Some people criticize her, saying, she just wasn't at the top of her game and this was an out, and I disagree. This kid was ready, she was primed, and, she was representing the United States in a worldwide event, the Olympics, and I wish her all the best. And, one positive thing that came out of this, you never really gave a lot of attention to the other members of the U.S. gymnastics team, and in particular to Suni Lee, who, she just thrown into the mix and wins the all-around gold. And it's a story that never would have happened for those unforeseen circumstances, and you have to give her all the credit in the world. She just stepped up, and I must say, this was a big deal, and everybody was watching, and we wish Simone Biles all the best, and want to really congratulate Suni Lee for taking this opportunity and showing the world that there's more than one gymnast that's capable of being the best in the world, and it's great, and I'm very happy to hear that, and wish Simone all the best. The Olympics themselves, we talked about it last week. I talked about there were some countries I've never heard of. There were certainly events that are new to the Olympics. We're a week in, so we know we have the track and field and stuff like that coming on. So, I mean, the first week it's usually dominated by swimming, and this year was no exception. Katie Ledecky, one of the best female swimmers of all time, she didn't really disappoint. I mean, she did lose one of the matches that was a surprise to this girl Titmus from Australia. But other than that, she really showed the world that she was one of the best female swimmers. And how about this Caleb Dressel from the men's side? Listen, no one's making any comparisons here to Michael Phelps, that's for sure. But this kid has really stepped up, and he's representing the men's side of the swimming. And I must say, he's got the coolest tattoo. I'm not a tattoo guy, but that tattoo he's got on his arm and shoulder is pretty sharp. I don't know how long that takes to get a tattoo. He must have sat in a chair for weeks to get that on, because it's pretty impressive. So let's talk about some other things going on in the Olympics. There was a little surprise. Novak Djokovic was eliminated, right? Naomi Osaka was eliminated, so you don't have the Roger Federers, you don't have the Rafael Nadal. So I guess tennis is wide open. I still don't see it as an Olympic sport per se, but it is. And those are some big surprises. I was watching some of these. I had no idea there was a canoeing event. I had no idea there was a 3-on-3 women's basketball event, mountain biking, all of these kind of things. There's just so many different events in the Olympics that are way different than when Steve and I used to watch this back in, going way back. And believe it or not, I remember Mark Spitz. But then the 76 Olympics were very, just riveting. You couldn't take your eyes off it. You watched it all day, all night. It was really awesome to see. So, so much going on in the Olympics, and we're only a week in. So we have track and field, which is always fun to watch. I mean, there's so many different events, but the Olympics has not been a disappointment. I know it's a very tenuous situation with the COVID situation going on, and that's certainly understandable. But thank goodness nothing has happened to the extent that it could have. And we're dealing with our own COVID issues in the United States right now, and this Delta variant is causing havoc. And again, the situation is if you get your vaccine, then you're probably not going to get sick, or and again, I'm not, people have their reasons for or against getting vaccines, but I can vouch for it. I mean, I had COVID and it's not fun. That's why I got the vaccine, but I would recommend, with the uncertainty of this COVID situation and the Delta variant, I think it's probably wiser to get it, but that's the political side that we don't really touch on here. So we're 1 week in. We got another week to go with the Olympics. Enjoy it. It's pretty exciting. And again, I think it came at a great time because, the world with all of the issues going on around it, it's a good distraction. And I think we should, relish the time that we have watching the Olympics and wish the best to all the athletes. No question about it. So I want to move on to, and actually before we move on, this segment is sponsored by our dear loyal sponsor, Coriano Trucking from Summerhill, New York, and actually going to see my sponsor this weekend. Looking forward to it, and we thank them for their continued support for Sports with Mono and Mono. Big day in Major League Baseball yesterday as the trading deadline is rapidly approaching. I think it's 4 o'clock this afternoon. But the wheeling and dealing that's been going on is, wow, it's amazing. So let's go down the list, right? The Yankees have been pretty active, and I think that there's no reason not to be, because they couldn't continue going on like this, and they're still 3.5, 4 games behind in the wild card, so they had to make some deals. And as Steve pointed out a couple of weeks ago, and that was some good foresight, they did get Joey Gallo from the Texas Rangers. And funny, because he grew up, his family's from Brooklyn, he grew up a Yankee fan, and now he's playing for the Yankees. But he's got to shave his beard. No beards for the Yankees. But that was a big deal. And that wasn't the only trade that they made. Another trade last night, they get Anthony Rizzo from the Chicago Cubs. And considering, the marketability of both of those guys, Gallo and Rizzo, they gave up prospects, but they didn't give up a lot of big names. You figured to get those kind of market players, you may have had to deal somebody like a Gleyber Torres, possibly a Gary Sanchez, and they didn't. So I think the Yankees made out pretty good in this situation. Some other trades, too. Red Sox, they're not sitting idly by, and they just got Kyle Schwarber from the Nats. I'll talk about the Nats in a second because they just had a fire sale, which I don't really understand. I don't think they were out of it, but Schwarber to the Red Sox, Rizzo Gallo to the Yankees, And the other big names, we knew that it looked like Max Scherzer was going to get moved, and he did. But here was the other surprise for the Nationals: Trey Turner. This guy's an MVP candidate. I mean, this guy was. He could have been a cornerstone of a franchise. I mean, and if they're throwing in the towel on this season, obviously, but what about the future? This guy is a really, really good top 10 player in Major League Baseball, and they unloaded him too. And the old saying is the rich get richer. The Los Angeles Dodgers, they reap the benefits. They get Scherzer and Turner, and for the most part, they didn't have to give up a ton. I mean, prospects, and you never know how that's going to work out. But they're not sitting idly by. They want to win this, and again, they did win it last year. But I always say that it's with an asterisk because it was a shortened season, but they are, if you look at their lineup, they're loaded top to bottom. It's amazing. I didn't see them as the benefactors of the Washington Nationals fire sale, but anyway. So there was also, we talk about the rich get richer, San Diego Padres, and we talked about this, and even before the season started with, all the moves they made, getting Snell from the Tampa Bay Rays to go with Tatis and Machado, and they got a really good team already. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. They pick up Adam Frazier from the Pittsburgh Pirates. And, I looked at his numbers overall. He's a good player. Just happened to be leading the league in hits and so forth. So, nobody's sitting idly by. And all of these guys that are available, and Adam Frazier, so now he goes from a last-place team of the Pittsburgh Pirates to a good almost first-place team in the San Diego Padres. So the National League is going to be tough to beat in the playoffs this year. I think, I do believe that the Boston Red Sox have a great lineup, and this guy Rafael Devers is turning into one of the premier hitters in Major League Baseball, and it doesn't hurt their chances, by adding a guy like Schwarber and so forth. So there's a lot going on. I think we'll probably hear some more trades that'll happen actually before the deadline closes this afternoon. But there were some big names on the move, and you expect it, but you don't expect the rich to get richer, and that seems to be what's happening. But overall, from a Major League Baseball perspective, I've been watching the Mets, and they're winning games without DeGrom. They're getting Carrasco back, so the Mets, even though Lindor's out, hasn't been producing, but he is out. The Mets are a good team, and this kid McNeil and Davis and Conforto. He's having a kind of a slow year, but he's played some great field. And Alonso hit a moonshot the other night, so the Mets are in pretty good shape. I don't think they have anything to worry about with the Phillies or anything. So the Mets should be all right. And on the Yankees side, they're struggling. Derek Cole got rocked yesterday. He actually got just rocked, and that's not a good sign. And I know Steve will keep pointing out. I said Yankees, excuse me, would win 98 games, and I'm starting to think, I'm starting to waver from that a little bit because these guys just aren't picking it up. The guys like Brett Gardner and the young kids, I don't think that's enough to get them there. And if Cole can't put the fire out when it's burning, then they're going to be in trouble. But with these two guys, I don't know if it's going to make that much of a difference. It may be too late in the season to do that. But with Rizzo and Gallo, I think there's a potential that they could get to those 98 games. I still don't know if it's going to be enough to make a wild card run, because the Blue Jays are pretty good, and those kind of teams that are ahead of them. But hey, listen, the Yankees are making an effort to try to turn things around because right now it's not looking good. So there's so much going on in baseball. It's we're in the second half of the season, so every game matters, and this is going to be it's going to be fun to watch. A lot of good teams, and let's see how all of these new trades work out for the teams that make them, and we'll see how that goes. Also, and I wanted to bring this up, we're going to move on to the NBA. Obviously, the NBA draft was last night. Cade Cunningham, number 1 pick. I don't think that was a surprise. I think the one big surprise that I saw was the number 2 pick was this kid Jalen Green. He didn't even go to college. This is a new phenomenon. This is what's changing. These guys are opting to go to these G development leagues, and he becomes the number 2 pick in the draft. And I think the big surprise there is, it could have been Evan Mobley from USC, but I think the one guy that was there, and Steve put this guy up time and time again, and I finally became a buyer of his, was Jalen Suggs. He drops to the 5th pick. I think he's going to be a Trae Young type player, impact player. Cunningham looks a little bit light to me. I don't think he's going to make that immediate impact. Good player. I don't think it's a surprise that he was the number 1 pick, but it was Cunningham, Green, Mobley, and this Jalen Suggs goes to the Orlando Magic. He's going to be a very good player in this league. I think it's easier to become a point guard in this league and make an impact than it is to be, a power forward or, a big guy in the center. With a few exceptions like Luka Doncic, but we'll see how that pans out. The Knicks, I don't know what the Knicks are doing. The Knicks took a couple of guys, Keon Johnson from, I think, Tennessee, whatever, but I think they're trading each and every one of the picks. So I don't know. They must have something up their sleeve. I think they're going to have to make a big move. Like who we talked about last week. Who did we talk about? And I said LeBron James was interested in bringing somebody like Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook to Los Angeles, and wouldn't you know it, that trade happens yesterday, and Westbrook is going to the Lakers because that's what LeBron James wanted, and they gave up some good prospects. They gave up Kuzma, they gave up Montrezl Harrell, Caldwell Pope, and a number 1 pick, but this makes super team number 2, and it's in the West Coast now, right? Because I think LeBron realized that with Durant, Irving, and Harden in New York, that this was going to be the team to beat. They had just really had Anthony Davis and himself, and this makes a big deal. And by the way, I don't even think it's out of the realm. I don't know how they're paying these guys, where the money, they're all making $40 million. But he is going to the Los Angeles Lakers, and that's going to be the team to beat in the West. And like I thought it was going to be this year, but injuries kind of derailed that. I think it's going to be the Nets and the Lakers. I know it's early to even be talking about that because that's not happening for a while. But that's a big deal. And you know what? LeBron James realizes his legacy will be secure with one more. Not that it's not already, but this makes him kind of a legend. And he realized. And Russell Westbrook, listen, he may have some miles on the tires, but I think he's got at least 1 or 2 more years left to make this run. So, hey, the Lakers aren't sitting around, and the president of the Lakers, LeBron James, a.k.a. also the commissioner of the NBA, not standing pat. He realizes that the Nets with Durant and those guys are going to be the team to beat. I'm not sure that the Suns, think they may have had their run. I'm not sure they can do that again, but we'll see how the NBA pans out. And, other things, they're talking, and I thought there was going to be a lot more activity on the trade front with the NBA and the draft yesterday. And, we know the Sixers want to unload Ben Simmons, but you know what? How much market value does Ben Simmons have after that performance in the NBA semifinals? I just, If they're holding out for two number ones or a marquee player, they're not going to get it. He doesn't have, he doesn't have that talent. I think we've seen he's a good kid and all, but he's not that. He's not somebody that's going to command two number one draft picks. That's for sure. So the NBA, and again, there's still going to be some more moving and shaking before the NBA season starts next year. Listen, the men's team in the Olympics has their own issues to worry about right now. Yes, they did lose to France. I think they're still going to at least win the silver medal, if not the gold, because the talent internationally is not there. If they can come together and stop pointing the finger at Greg Popovich, who's, he's an X's and O's great player, but the egos of these players today, they don't want to listen to their coach, but I don't think there's going to be a problem, and I think they're still going to win the gold medal, but we'll see how things move and shake in the NBA going forward. So let's move on, and we're going to move on to this segment, which is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. Again, we continuously thank our sponsors for their support, and you want a Toyota, you go to Lynch Toyota, Manchester, Connecticut, period. So the National Football League, and we can joke all we want, but Mr. Rogers returned to his neighborhood. How about that? And again, I was a huge Aaron Rodgers fan, but just this didn't sit well with me. But he did show up to camp. He is going to play. It looks like the Green Bay Packers buckled under his demands. I think he's only going to be there for one more year. I think that's the under the table handshake deal, that he's going to be moving on after this season. But again, when I think about the commotion that he caused, and what was this? All because his feelings were hurt because they drafted for the future in picking Jordan Love 2 years ago. And you know what? I think he deserves his chance, and I'll be glad when Rodgers moves out, and he'll be somewhere next year. That'll be the blockbuster deal. I guess he got a little worried about leaving $40 million on the table. He's going to get his money wherever he goes, but I think this is going to be a temporary stay for him. He's got this grudge against the general manager, which isn't going to go away. He comes out and says all the right things. He did his homework before he got up to the podium and told everybody what was behind the reason for this breakup with the Packers management and so forth. But he's back. Listen, I don't want to say good luck to him. He's 38 years old. He should know by now that, once you get at that age in the NFL, Tom Brady aside, you may have hit your peak already. So we'll see where he ends up. But he will not be in Green Bay next year, and I don't think they're actually going to be contenders this year either. When you look at the NFL, it's across the board, and everybody's optimistic in the beginning of the season, of course, right? Dak Prescott is back. Daniel Jones is make-or-break season for the Giants. Lamar Jackson, can he regain his MVP form? Fitzmagic is playing for the Washington football team. Mayfield, Cousins, these are all guys, they're supposedly, marquee guys, and who's going to step up and who's not going to step up. I think we've exhausted by seeing Cousins, real good quarterback, but is he worth the money they're paying? I'm not sure. Fitzpatrick in Washington, we've seen he's going to win some games, he's going to lose some games, but I don't think overall they're going to win a championship with him. They got a lot of talent around them. They got a good team. But I think they missed the mark by not forecasting their quarterback situation going forward after they let Cousins walk to Minnesota. And, of course, a lot of preseason folks are picking the Cleveland Browns, and this could be the breakout year for Baker Mayfield. He's had a pretty good career so far. Now he's got the talent around him, so we'll see what happens. But from the Dallas Cowboy perspective, Dak Prescott's got shoulder soreness. Is that due to the inactivity while he was recovering from his broken leg? It's possible. But you go across the board and you just look at these quarterbacks, and everyone's optimistic that the Giants, they could this could be a make or break year. But when you also look at the Giants, and now you're starting to hear that maybe Saquon Barkley's injury was worse than expected. It's been over a year, and they're still debating whether or not he's going to be ready to make an appearance on the football field. This kid's a great kid. He wants to be out there, but an ACL tear is not something that's easy to come back from. So I think without him, the Giants aren't going to have that running game that's going to enable Daniel Jones to turn into something, although I still have a lot of optimism about him. I think he's got a lot of talent, but again, I think the Giants missed the mark by not drafting an offensive lineman. They had to shore that up. He's still a young kid. He has a tendency to turn the ball over, and either this is going to, make or break year for him. No, I don't think so. I don't think, if the Giants go 8-8 or 7-9 or whatever it is, 7-10 now with 17-game schedule. I don't think so. I think sometimes it takes guys to blossom a little bit longer, especially when he hasn't had the talent around him. But I like the things Joe Judge is doing. So good luck to them. And listen, the Rams now with Stafford. So there's a lot of teams when you have a clean slate. Even the Jets. I'm not a Jet fan, but I like Robert Saleh. Zach Wilson finally signed his rookie deal, as did Trey Lance in San Francisco. How is this, the Greg Knapp passing going to impact the plans of Saleh and the Jets? But I think the Jets have made all of the right moves, and I think they're going to be a team, not necessarily this year, but I think the Jets are finally on the right track. And, again, here's another example when we're talking about the NFL and these guys holding out, right? Now you got Chandler Jones in Arizona. These guys are making money. They signed their contracts, and now he wants to be traded. And this guy, Xavier Howard, defensive back from Miami, just signed his deal a year and a half ago. He says he's not respected or by the Dolphins. They just gave you a ton of money. What is going on? And I keep talking about this in sports. It's the Hardens, it's the Rodgers. I mean, these guys sign their contract and they're dictating where they want to play. It's an abomination in sports, and it doesn't seem to be any end in sight. So be happy enough that you're on an NFL roster. Be happy that you have an opportunity to play with some of the best players in the world and have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl. But the greed is taking over sports in general, and it's going to have to stop at some point, because who's going to pay? I mean, to pay these guys, and I wanted to bring this up too. I know hockey season is over and so forth, and it was great to see. A lot of free agents, are going, and actually, for the first time, the NHL players are actually making the money that the NBA players are making, and the NFL players and the baseball players. They were always the redheaded stepchild when it came to contracts and so forth. So I don't know where all this money is coming from, but I'm happy to see for the NHL players starting to get the money that they deserve, because it's one of the toughest and most underrated sports there is. And these guys, they're starting to make the money that some of these guys you've never even heard of in the NBA are playing, that don't even play that much. So that's good to see. And There's a lot of movement going on in the NHL in the offseason. Fleury gets traded to the Blackhawks, and Dougie Hamilton signs with the Devils, and the Rangers are kind of revamping their team. So there's a lot of moving and shaking going on in the NBA as well. Looking forward to it. Like I said, final week of the Olympics. NBA's good. It's off season, but there's going to be a lot of movement. But we're in baseball season, and the NFL and training camps have opened. We're right around the corner, and just can't wait. And that's going to keep Mono and Mono talking. And listen, anything you agree or disagree with to this point in the show, please send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com. We had a couple from our loyal fans last week, James Smith, James Walsh, etc. So please send us an email. Look forward to hearing from you, and we'll certainly get back to you pronto. So we go into our new segment, the Mono Points of Interest, right? And, we talked a little bit about the NFL and this Deshaun Watson. Now the Texans are open to trading him. So he's held them hostage. I don't think his marketability with his legal issues is going to make him that much in demand. But I think the Texans would rather rid themselves of this situation. But I'm not sure what team is willing to take that on, because this guy's got legal problems, and he's facing suspension. So you're going to give up an awful lot to get a guy who may not even be on the team. I wanted to also bring something up from a point of interest. The name, image, and likeness situation that Steve and I covered extensively before. And you're really starting to see the impact that it's having to these young players. Bryce Young, quarterback of Alabama, and even I think Nick Saban was kind of tongue-in-cheek saying, this guy hasn't even played a game. And he's signed a contract. He's going to make over $1 million for his name, image, and likeness. And it's going on all over the place. And in particular, there's a young prospect. He could potentially be a senior in high school in Texas. Quinn Ewers. I don't even know how to pronounce it. But he's got, there's so much money at stake for these young kids that he's possibly considering foregoing his senior season in high school and enroll early at Ohio State. And you're going to see this all over the place. The whole dynamics of this name, image, and likeness thing is changing the dynamics of college sports. And listen, these guys deserve it. And I'm happy that they're going to get the money. But it's going to change a lot of things. And there's so much going on with, college sports and this whole Oklahoma and Texas, moving to the SEC. I mean, this is going to change the dynamics of college sports. You can apparently just move from conference to conference, and I think they're developing this SEC powerhouse. It's a team when you already got an Alabama in there, and you're adding these other powerhouse teams. It's the dynamics of college sports have officially changed. And I wanted to give another shout out actually to. Steve and I, we're loyal St. Joe Regional alumni from Montvale, New Jersey. And, not only Olympics going on, and I wanted to bring this up to our soccer resident expert, Diego Cruz. The Gold Cup goalie for the USA is a former St. Joe's alumni, class of 2012, Matt Turner. Really making a name for himself. And as Diego pointed out, these aren't the best players of the U.S. He kind of called it the B team, if you will. But they're really making noise, and they're playing for the Gold Cup final against Mexico on Sunday. And I actually got a chance to watch some of the game last night. It's actually exciting to watch. And we really want soccer to grow in this country. and it seems to be stagnant. But when you have young players like Matt Turner, the goalkeeper for the U.S. team, they got a lot of other good players. Things going to start looking good for the World Cup coming up down the road, and just wanted to bring that up. We always mention the prominence of St. Joe's and the athletes that they produce. So we wish them good luck in the Gold Cup final against Mexico. So listen, I just wanted to. We're going to move on to our notable passing segment, which unfortunately some weeks we have nothing to bring up, and some weeks we do. Not a lot from the world of sports this time, but from the world of, I guess, entertainment would best be the way to put it. Guy was pretty funny, Jackie Mason, 93 years old. And I'm not going to do my Jackie Mason, which I do a great Jackie Mason, because Steve's not here, and he would have to do his, and I would do mine. But Jackie Mason, former rabbi turned comic, and he's got a great resume. He's 93 years old, but very funny, and kind of rocked the establishment. Talked about things that you're not supposed to talk about, but he was very funny, and I actually liked him in The Jerk with Steve Martin, to be honest with you. Caddyshack 2 is not something that I could even have watched because Caddyshack 1 was so good. But Jackie Mason, 93, funny, had a good career, R.I.P. Also, from the world of music, Dusty Hill from the, I guess I want to say legendary. ZZ Top had a span decades, big hits, known for their facial hair for sure. But Dusty Hill, 72 years old, was the bassist for ZZ Top, who had just a great run. 72, but very, very good musician. And they endured. They never stopped playing. One of the rarities in music, they kept together over the years. Didn't have all these falling outs like some of the other bands. But Dusty Hill, 72, R.I.P. And here, the final one is this is. I'm not laughing because he passed away, but I'm laughing because of the impact that he had. Was Ron Popeil, right? TV pitchman, inventor. Some of the most ludicrous things that you ever see, but you know what? He made money on all of them. I guess probably his famous one was the Pocket Fisherman, right? Which is sold millions of them, right? Hair in a can. I mean, when you think of some of the gadgets that he invented, and he goes way, way back. I mean, he was the kind of the first TV pitchman, but give the guy credit. He made an incredible living. He was 86 years old, but, kind of changed the dynamics, was the founding father of infomercials and things like that. But he made a ton of money selling things that you wouldn't buy at a flea market. But, good for him. He was pretty innovative for the time. So Ron Popeil, so unfortunately, those are some of the news that we have to bear every now and then, and but our notable segments, notable passing segment, a little light this week, but certainly notable. I'm sure you've heard of all of those guys, and may they rest in peace. So listen, enjoy the rest of the week. Steve, enjoy your vacation. You deserve it. And Sports with Mono and Mono will be back certainly next week for sure. And we wish you guys all the best, and stay healthy. Keep your masks on, because this COVID variant is changing the game again. So just be careful out there. It's not something you want to take a chance on, and enjoy the rest of the Olympics. Enjoy the sports that are happening, and we'll be in touch with you next week. And thanks very much for joining us. And I hope you have a great weekend. It looks like the weather's going to be nice, so enjoy yourselves, and we'll catch up to you next week. But please, always know you can send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, folks. Bye.